You know, a fun frame with that is when someone says, must be nice, you can just say, yeah, it is. Or someone says, man, you must have exceptional genetics to have the body you have, and it just happens so easily for you. And you're like, yeah, it's sweet. And the thing is that if we were to just say, like, if we lean into it, right, to some degree, by leaning into it, you also eliminate a competitor, if you want to hear my ugly side. Because if I just affirm the fact that they think it happened overnight, or that it was genetic, or whatever,
make it more average.
Right.
Yeah. I've thought about this. So this is such a good point. Such a good point. That somebody telling you, going David Goggins mode, and somebody saying, this is how hard I had to work to achieve this thing. Look at how hard I had to go through, and look at all of the setbacks I had, and look at just how in the red I was before I got to the black, before I got to the green. Just look at all of these things. People see that as a threat, people see that as a humble brag, but what it is a treasure map. This is where I was, and this is where I went, and me, with all of my inefficiencies and deficiencies and setbacks, got from there to here. You aren't even as far into the red as I was. So all of the talk...
Interesting, and you know, that's the thing, and that's one of the problems is a thing called perspective. And what a lot of people do is give themselves a reason on why not to be great. And this is one of those examples in this perspective. So you have the David Goggins approach, which you see Chris was talking about, where, you know, he talks about all of his deficiencies and why he had to work so hard so it can be all aspiring to the others. But others may look at that and be like, well, that's kind of traumatic, or I don't know. Is this guy real? Did he really have to work this hard? I don't know. And then Alex Hormozi, on the other hand, is like, yeah, you know, you just play into that, which I know that Alex Hormozi is just trolling at this point. Like, he didn't come out the womb being as buff and in shape as he is. He didn't come out of the womb. What was the other example? Business wasn't just always second nature and easy for him coming out of the womb. You know, these are skills that, you know, go underappreciated because we don't see the thousands of things that you're doing before you hit play. We don't see, all you see is the end result, essentially, is all that I'm saying. And that's the problem, is that people don't have that perspective. And one of those reasons why is, well, let's see if they touch on that deeper into the video.
I understand why hustle porn kind of gets a cringe pushback from the world, but what it actually should be is an unbelievably empowering message that anybody can get from wherever they are to wherever you are. The much more disempowering one was, yeah man, you know, it just comes to me easily. So yeah, if you really want to fuck somebody up, tell them that it's ineffable. Tell them that it's ethereal and astral and you can't get here.
One of my favorite ways to help someone overcome an excuse or limiting belief is to tell them I believe them. And so if I'm like, hey, why don't you double your prices? And then they give 4 reasons why they can't double their prices. And I'll say, then you'll fail forever. And then they're like, well, no, because X, Y, and Z. And it's like, great. Glad we got there.
That's like your thing about only one person can be in the angry boat.
Yeah.
So one person can only be in the negative boat.
Yeah, it worked. It's unbelievable how powerful that is. What's interesting about a lot of the discontent that we have around how people judge our success or achievement is that we have this unspoken demand that they have a visceral understanding of everything that we went through without having been there. And the problem with that is that if they understood everything, then they would have a complete understanding of how to do it themselves. And so it's making an impossible demand of strangers to somehow be successful already so that they can appreciate our success.
And also removing your competitive advantage.
Right.
And so it's interesting, this is just for everyone who's listening, is that, Chris, you can probably attest to this, is that of the people that I've met in my life who've been extremely successful.
So what he's pretty much saying in essence is that sometimes it takes for you to be on the same wavelength of success and having the same work ethic as the other person that we see as the end result as being these moguls and being successful. It takes that sometimes to really appreciate how hard somebody else is working. Like I said, a lot of people just see the end results of things and they don't understand that, for example, Kobe Bryant, behind the scenes was he had to lock in. If he wanted to get better at free throws, he had to lock in for months at a time, maybe all week, where maybe the only thing he shot every single day was 5,000 free throws. And we only see the end results of that, but we don't see these small nuances and the fine details of being that obsessed and on one thing. And that's what my service to you guys at Operator Network over at the school lab is about, is getting you on a path, only worrying about that one thing that's going to push the needle for you. Later on, we can add to that, but it's always important that we lock in that one thing. But let's see
any endeavor. There's this kind of, and I want to make a video about this, but it's what people say in the back room. And there are these common things that we say to one another that other people wouldn't believe. So like, they just don't get how much actual work it is to do a podcast like this. People, like, you don't actually get that what 100 hours of preparation for one 1 hour event looks like. You can understand it conceptually, but when you actually set a timer and you only use that timer and you pause it when you stop working and you do 100 hours of work, all of a sudden by the end of that 100 hours, you have a very different understanding to the very granular level of what it takes to be great at anything. And that's 100 hours, not 10,000 hours, but 100 hours with feedback. And so everyone's like in the back room, they want this magic pill. They want to know the secret, but there is no secret. It's just hard work. But I think the thing that everyone who's listening lacks is the context on how hard work is, not in that it's complex, but just in that it's a
boom, right there. And that brings to mind my guy, my friend AB, man. He runs a 1 million plus subscriber YouTube channel. I mean, he got multiple YouTube channels, but the one that's his main one is a 1 million plus subscriber channel. And that, I know the backgrounds and the foundation, the underpinning, so to speak, of what it took for him to get to this point, and even his staff and his team, the extra miles they're willing to go to make sure that this video and that video is optimal and it's optimized. Like his cameraman Davo, he spent, I can't remember how long he said it, but and I know it was no exaggeration, but let's just say for the sake of just putting it in perspective for you, that it took him like an hour. He went out of his way, an hour, 3 hours, just for a 10-second, like probably less than a 10-second shot of like the sunrise and stuff like that. And these are things that goes underappreciated, but the end result, we still see this amazing video. We still see this amazing result. And this video, guys, isn't just tailored specifically to YouTube. No, this is anything that you want to push the needle for yourself. If that's business, if that's working out, if that's eating healthy, if that's reading more consistently, if that's studying more, anything that you want to strive for in life, if that's finishing out this degree, this bachelor's, this master's, this PhD, anything. But let's get back to the video.
Continuous and unending focus on one thing and noticing the details that separate mediocrity from greatness. And if you're like, I don't know what the difference between those two things is, that is the opportunity that hard work reveals, is that it takes watching 10 hours of you presenting and then taking notes at every time that you say or that a transition between slides is unclean, or that the audience kind of gets lost there because I can see that there's no reactions to that. I should probably add a visual there. And then when you go slide by slide, realizing that, okay, I can put 1,000 slides together for 90 minutes of presenting if I really put one thought with one visual per slide. And every one of them, and I love this description, is like a coat of paint. It's like you just put another coat of paint on the skill set or the achievement that you're working towards. And most people expect that the pencil wireframe that they do on their first shot is hard work because that's the hardest they've worked, not the amount of hard work that is required in order to get the level of outcome that they say they want or that they expect. And so there's a divorce in reality because they don't have the context from which to make a judgment because they've never been great at anything. And until you get great, because as soon as you get great at one thing, you realize just the tremendous amount of hours and work that it takes to be great at one thing. And then there's this oh shit moment that I can express personally, which is you realize that there's so few things that you can be great at. And then the discipline comes down to saying, what are the 2 or 3 things that I can be really good at in my life? Because it will take me 5 to 7 years to be exceptional at this one thing.
Oh my goodness.
And so even like making content, a lot of people see my stuff now, but I just had a friend send me a video that he interviewed me before I made any other videos, and I sent it to my team, and he was like, dude, I watched it. He was like, and it was you. But then I covered the face, and he was like, I mean, it's your voice, but it's like your clarity of thinking wasn't there in the way that you articulated. And the thing is it's if to the untrained eye, to a beginner, they look at that video and they look at my current videos and say, I don't get why he blew up because it's the same dude. But the master or the expert level can say, I can give you 100 different things that could have been better about his now or his old videos compared to his now videos. And just the granularity of that feedback that allows you to see the discrepancy between your current and your desired. And I think that once you actually give yourself the reality glasses, not the woe is me glasses, but think, no, really, if I had to do this, what are all of the things that I would have to improve? Then you see how incredibly long that list is. And then you take this deep breath, and that list is the hard work.
You come to a realization, it's only so many, it's a handful of things in life that you can really be great in. And that's why being around people that has what you want is getting advice from people that has what you want and where you want to be or has been where you're been at is always the best thing. Like you guys tap in with me because I've been in you guys' shoes before, and I've shown you like what's being disciplined, locked in, and focused, and being consistent. And like I said, when it comes to being a YouTuber, my guy AB, when you see the extent he's willing to go to produce great content, you be like, yeah, this is like, essentially I look at myself as being maybe a I wouldn't even say a D1 athlete if when it comes to content creation. I'm like second string high school second string at a high school, and Avery B is in the YouTube world, he's considered like an all-star YouTuber, you know, in the grand scheme of things, because, you know, of course, he has to compare himself to like a Mr. Beast and people that has 20 million, 50 million, hundreds of millions of subscribers. You look at things like that, then you have a real idea on what it takes to be great, and you already see the discrepancy, the gap in between that. And, you know, that's why things go underappreciated, because we see the end result and then we look like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can just get on camera and do this, or I can do that. I can stay locked in like that. But no, easier said than done. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. You just don't know how much work is happening in the background. With him saying like, oh, it's just 2 or 3 things that you can actually be great in. And that's why over at, see, I'm saying, and that's another thing that comes to mind. Quick tangent. I think of Andrew Tate when he says that he studied his own videos and see if he could have articulated something better, or if he's stuttering, or he's saying and I just did that right now. Alex Hormozi just mentioned that as well, of being very critical of yourself and what you can do to refine yourself. So we look at guys like Tony Robbins, and we be like, oh man, I can do what he do. He just presents. Like, y'all just don't know how many like hours and refinement. That's the key word, refinement over time that it really takes. And that's why over here, this was the point I was getting to at Operator Network. We're helping you take that number one thing, making that the number one priority, and we're going to scale that up till you get super focused and consistent in that. Then we can add another thing. Once we get that other thing dialed in, then we can add another thing. But realistically, I'm not trying to have you guys come to me and try to dump 20 things in your life that you're trying to prioritize. It's not going to happen. That would be disingenuous of me to do so. Like that really could happen for you to try to, no, you want to be great. It's going to take a lot of time. He said 5 to 7 years. And it's funny because my guy Bryce on the other day, he said he watched, I can't remember what guy it was, but he said that, yeah, like realistically, you guys are getting into this space and that space, it's going to take you probably every bit of 7 years and whatnot. And I can see that. I can see that. Let's see what Alex got to say.
Starting at the top and then wanting to cross the first one off after your first day, but then realizing you still haven't done it well enough to cross it off, and you're like, wait, I have to do another day and I still haven't, quote, made a dent in this list. And then you do it another day, and a third day, and a fifth day, and a fifth week, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I think I've got the first one done. And then you still look at this list, but along the way of doing that first one, you realize 20 other things that you could add to that list.
For every one that you cross off, you create 10 more because you start to win in the weeds. You start to look at a higher resolution.
And that's the never-ending cycle of excellence.
Perpetual loop of excellence. It's a perpetual loop. Sometimes when I read over my notes or I read this book, I'm like, oh, that gave way more context than that. I just had just the first layer of this, and then it's a deeper layer. It's the second layer. Then you like, oh my goodness, it's another layer to this. So you can be fixated on just one thing before you can. So what I'm saying is this: idealistically, you can have a list of 20 things, and then by the time you're done, that list went from 20 to 100 because that one thing produced 2 things. That one thing could have produced 5 more things that you needed to retain, you needed to grasp. And that's kind of what Alex Hormozi is getting to, and that's what it takes to be great. The key word is just refinement over time. And I think that's pivotal. I think that's paramount, that you had that understanding that, you know, none of these people that you see that's famous right now, it's not as overnight as you may think. That goes with people that maybe have hit singles. We don't know that, you know, they were struggling, an inspiring artist for the past 5 years before that first hit came about, or 7 years before that first hit came about. You guys don't know that, you know, some of the things that I do go underappreciated. Y'all don't know that I'm spending 3 to 5 hours. Nobody has forced me, but I'm taking time out of my life to sit up and read books, which I was telling AB about this before, that the thing about books, you're going to realize that it's going to be, and it's funny, it goes back to Alex Hormozi saying that he was like 5 to 7 years. I told AB, well, I'm 25 now, and I was like, it's things that I've read 5-8 years ago that I can pull out of my back pocket right now in this moment. It pays dividends, and you don't see it. It's not instant gratification. Simply, none of this stuff is instant gratification. It's delayed gratification, and that's why I have a higher understanding now of what people say. Just enjoy the journey. And I always used to tell myself this: it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And I just want y'all to have that same mentality. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And just remember that most people, you're going to beat them just simply out of the war of attrition. Just you being in there longer than them. It's not about you necessarily being the best boxer in the first 6 rounds. What about the second half? What about the remaining 6 rounds? So, you know, in boxing you have 12 rounds, and you can have a boxer can get the better of you in the first 6, but what about your stamina? Let's see what your endurance in life when I take you in those deep waters for that second half of that bout. Most of the hardest work is just outlasting people, and that takes consistency, that takes focus, and that's where I want to end this this live off at. And you can go over. You can get this on your Android, you can get this on your iPhone, you can download it over at Operator Network. That's what it's going to look like. I appreciate you guys. Hope this video was insightful. If you guys like this type of content, let me know. If not, let me know, because I am going to alternate. This is not going to strictly be this channel. It's just nothing but reactions. But just let me know down below. Don't be stuck and done forever. Let's learn to grow together. It's Hef.